Good morning, everybody. What another awesome morning in May. We've been having so many of them, and I'm so glad. The only drawback to this one is it's a little chilly out. I got my sweatshirt on, my hat. It's only 44 degrees. What's that all about? Hey, let's get up in the mid-60s today, and by this Friday, it's going to be the upper 80s. I don't know about where you're at, but to me, that's hot. All right, so what do we have going on here on this Wake Up Wednesday? It's a call by the prophet, the seer, John, to wake up to a new reality. And this is the reality that he's waking up to, coming from the 21st chapter of the book of Revelation, verse 10. And in the Spirit, he carried me away to a great high mountain and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. And all the verses that follow there talk about the particularities of this city, its size, it's so immense, and for a city in ancient times, it just dwarfs everything that the people know. But it's made out of every precious metal and stone that you can possibly think of. It's just an absolutely awesome place. Now, it's kind of modeled on what we see, the vision that Ezekiel, the prophet from the Older Testament, had, and it's in Ezekiel chapters 40 and following chapters. But there are some significant differences that come out. Now, our text had that opening verse, verse 10 from chapter 21. Then it skips down to verse 22, reads the rest of chapter 21, and then moves into the first 5 verses of chapter 22. Well, a little confusing there, but just read it all. Okay, just read all of it. And because next week we'll be finishing up chapter 22. But there are the differences that you want to see between the vision that Ezekiel had and the vision that John now has. One of those major differences is the gates. The gates to the city. In Ezekiel, those gates are all shut. Why? Well, that was an important thing. Now the people can feel perfectly and totally confident in God as their protector. He's keeping those gates shut so that no more evil forces can come in. All right? But it does kind of separate you from the rest of the world. God's people are now kept protected, but they're separate from them. Whereas here in the book of Revelation, the gates are never shut. What's up with that, God? You trying to do us in? The enemy's going to come and get us. The enemy's been totally defeated. There's no need for the gates to be closed. There's no more nighttime, the time when the bad stuff can happen to you. That's what the powerful imagery that's going on. You have to read all of this and read it with the eyes of, what is this imagery trying to tell me? God's love has conquered everything to the point where you don't need to have those gates shut. The doors are wide open, get this, to everybody. All people, all tongues, all races, white, black, brown, yellow, red, it doesn't matter. All are God's people. All are welcome to this city. All are part of this heavenly city. What an incredible image. The gates are never shut. Never shut. You have another interesting thing happening in this city as opposed to the one that Ezekiel saw. The temple. Hey, this is the city of God. Where's the temple? There is no temple. Why? Well, we saw that in our reading from last Sunday, which is the beginning of chapter 21. The temple, God has come down from heaven and put his tent up, his temple over all of us. There's no need for a physical building temple anymore. God's presence is with all of us. That temple always symbolized God's presence in the midst of the people. Now God is everywhere. He's in and dwells among us and in us. You don't need that temple anymore. Isn't that an awesome thing? Another thing that we see happening, another difference between the two visions. In Ezekiel, you had the river of life flowing out from the temple. Why? Well, that only makes sense. That's God. That's God's presence symbolized in that temple. Here, it flows from the throne of God, which is set right smack dab in the middle of the city. Yeah, God's presence, God's throne, He's right there, and from Him flows the river of life. And this is what I really like. That river of life has the tree of life that is growing all along its edges. Isn't that they're kind of weird? Single tree. We see that happening in nature too, sending out the roots, and it comes up here and comes up there, and that's what's happening here. And this tree of life bears fruit for all. There is no want anymore, no hunger. There's plenty to eat. And the other thing it does, it says its leaves are for the healing of the nations. Leaves are for healing? What, you just kind of fan yourself to stay cool, or what was it? No. Back then, leaves carried a lot of medicinal value for the people, and it would be ground up and mixed with in some sort of hot water stew or whatever. And hey, but we do the same thing today. This Friday, I mentioned it's going to be in the upper 80s here in our neck of the woods. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go find me a real good ice cold glass of iced tea. Where do you get tea from? Leaves. Ground up leaves. That's going to be great healing for me when I'm out mowing the lawn and I need some refreshment. All right. So it's for the healing of the nations. The nations, remember, that means everybody, every race, every tongue, every creed, every color, every nationality. All those differences now are kind of, well, they're there, but it doesn't matter because we're all one. We're all part of this wondrous new thing called the new heaven, the new earth, the holy city, the new Jerusalem. Oh, this is going to be one great Sunday when we really dig deep into the words of this scripture. And so read it. We're going to be reading the first 5 verses of chapter 22, and then next week we will finish it up, our study of the book of Revelation, which tells us this one thing time and time again. Hang in there. The going might be tough now, but in the end, God wins. And because God wins, we all win. Blessings be with you on this day. Enjoy the sunshine. Enjoy the glorious weather, which is a blessing from above. See you tomorrow.